Right now, an entire city is standing on wood, not concrete, not steel. Wood. Hidden beneath the canals, churches, palaces, and narrow streets of Venice lies a forest. A forest of nearly 10 million wooden piles driven deep into the seabed more than 1.5 years ago. And somehow, those wooden foundations are stronger today than when they were first installed. But that's only the beginning. Beneath Venice are hidden prisons where the world's most famous escape took place, secret chambers where powerful men decided life and death in complete silence, the world's first industrial production line, and a €55 billion underwater defense system built to stop the sea from swallowing the city forever. Welcome to Venice, a city built on water, supported by wood, and protected by one of the greatest engineering secrets in human history. To understand why Venice exists at all, we have to travel back almost 16 centuries. The year is 421 AD. The Western Roman Empire is collapsing. Across northern Italy, waves of invading tribes are destroying city after city. The Huns, the Goths, the Lombards, entire communities are forced to flee, looking for somewhere, anywhere, they might survive. Eventually, a group of refugees reaches an enormous coastal lagoon on the edge of the Adriatic Sea. It looks like the worst place imaginable to build a city. Too much water. Not enough solid ground. Marshes filled with insects, disease, floods, almost no farmland. No one wants this place, which is exactly why it becomes the perfect refuge. Enemy armies can't charge through deep mud. Heavy cavalry gets trapped. Large formations fall apart before reaching the islands. The lagoon itself becomes a natural fortress, one that no wall could ever match. But there was one enormous problem. The islands were tiny, far too small to support an entire city. So instead of building on the islands, the Venetians did something no civilization had attempted on this scale. They built on the water itself. Thousands of workers transported enormous oak and alder trunks from the forests of present-day Slovenia and Croatia. One by one, they drove them vertically into the muddy seabed, deeper and deeper, until each pile reached a stable layer of compact clay beneath the soft sediments. Then another and another and another, until millions of wooden piles covered the lagoon floor. They created an artificial forest beneath the water, a hidden foundation no visitor would ever see. The numbers are almost impossible to believe. St. Mark's Basilica alone rests on more than 1 million wooden piles. The entire historic city, nearly 10 million. Every palace, every church, every bridge, every stone walkway, supported by wood. Not reinforced concrete, not steel, wood. Which raises an obvious question. How has any of it survived for over 15 centuries? Shouldn't it have rotted away centuries ago? The answer is one of the most fascinating examples of natural engineering you'll ever find. Normally, wood decays because fungi and bacteria need oxygen to survive. But beneath Venice, there is almost no oxygen at all. The piles remain permanently submerged inside compact mud. Without oxygen, the microorganisms responsible for decay simply cannot live. Over centuries, minerals carried by seawater slowly penetrated the wood. The timber became denser, harder, almost stone-like, not literally transformed into rock, but preserved so completely that many of the original piles are still carrying the same buildings they supported more than 1.5 thousand years ago. Venice isn't floating on water. It's standing on one of the oldest surviving engineering foundations ever built, a hidden forest that never stopped holding the city above the sea. But once you climb back to street level, the story becomes even stranger. Because the greatest secret beneath Venice isn't its wooden forest. It's what generations of rulers hid above it. Hidden treasures, secret prisons, political conspiracies, and one of the most daring escapes in European history. Let's step inside the heart of Venice, because beneath its beautiful canals, the city hides a much darker story. If Venice's hidden forest is the city's foundation, then St. Mark's Basilica is its soul. From the outside, it's one of the most photographed churches on earth. Golden domes, marble columns, mosaics that shimmer in the sunlight. Millions of visitors walk through its doors every year, but very few realize they're standing above one of Europe's greatest hidden treasures. For centuries, the Republic of Venice treated this basilica less like a church and more like a vault. Inside stands the Pala d'Oro, a breathtaking Byzantine altarpiece covered with more than 2,000 precious stones, emeralds, rubies, sapphires, pearls, garnets, every gemstone placed by hand. For nearly 1,000 years, it has almost never left the basilica. To medieval Venetians, this was not simply religious art. It was a symbol of the city's wealth, its independence, and its power. But an even greater secret lies below the altar. Hidden beneath the church is a small crypt. According to tradition, it contains the remains of Saint Mark the Evangelist himself. The story begins in 828 AD. Two Venetian merchants travel to Alexandria, Egypt. Their mission is simple: steal one of Christianity's most valuable relics. Legend says they hid the body beneath barrels of pork, knowing Muslim customs would prevent inspectors from touching the cargo. Whether every detail is true or not, the relics arrived safely in Venice. And from that moment on, Saint Mark became the city's eternal protector. Even today, very few people ever see the crypt where those relics are believed to rest. Just a few steps away, another building tells a completely different story. One of politics, fear, and absolute power. The Doge's Palace. At first glance, it looks like the perfect Renaissance palace. Elegant arches, pink marble, beautiful courtyards. Everything about it suggests beauty and wealth. But behind those walls, one of Europe's most sophisticated intelligence networks quietly controlled an empire. At the center of that system stood a mysterious group known as the Council of Ten. Officially, they existed to protect the Republic. In reality, they became one of the most feared political organizations in Europe. Only 10 men served at any one time. Their meetings were secret. Their records were classified. Their decisions could never be challenged. They decided who lived, who was exiled, which foreign governments were being watched, who posed a threat to Venice, and sometimes, who simply disappeared. No public trial, no explanation, no appeal. Their meeting chamber still exists today. Visitors walk through it every day, rarely realizing they are standing where some of the Republic's darkest decisions were once made. But the palace was not only the government's headquarters, it was also a prison. In fact, two prisons, one above the palace and one below it. The upper prison was known as the Piombi, the lead prisons. Its cells sat directly beneath the palace's massive lead roof. During summer, the lead absorbed the heat of the Mediterranean sun. The cells became ovens. In winter, the same metal froze, turning the prison into an icebox. The punishment was not violence, it was the building itself. Among its prisoners was a man whose name would become legendary: Giacomo Casanova. Long before becoming famous as history's greatest seducer, he was imprisoned here in 1755, officially accused of blasphemy, forbidden books, occult practices, and, perhaps most importantly, being deeply unpopular with the authorities. Most prisoners never escaped. Casanova did. After spending 15 months secretly planning every detail, he broke through the ceiling, climbed across the palace roof, entered another section of the building through a window, and calmly walked out of the main entrance disguised as a government official. It remains one of the most extraordinary prison escapes in European history, but even the Piombi weren't the worst place to be imprisoned. Those were the cells below, the pozzi, the wells, hidden beneath sea level, dark, cold, almost completely silent. Seawater constantly seeped through the walls. During high tide, the floors flooded. Prisoners spent days standing ankle-deep in cold, salt water. Many became seriously ill. Some never left alive. Execution wasn't always necessary. Sometimes, the prison itself did the job. Connecting the palace to the newer prison is one of Venice's most famous landmarks, the Bridge of Sighs. Most tourists imagine it as one of the city's most romantic places. The truth is far darker. Convicted prisoners crossed this enclosed bridge only once. Halfway across, a tiny window offered one final view of Venice: the canals, the sky, the lagoon, the sunlight. For many, it was the last thing they would ever see before disappearing into prison forever. That final glimpse of freedom is where the bridge got its name. But Venice wasn't built on fear alone. It also became one of the richest and most technologically advanced cities on Earth. And that happened because of one extraordinary place, a shipyard that quietly changed industrial history forever. When people think about Venice, they usually imagine gondolas, luxury merchants, or Renaissance palaces. Very few realize that, for centuries, Venice was one of the world's greatest industrial superpowers. And the engine behind that power wasn't hidden inside a palace. It was hidden behind massive stone walls, a place known simply as the Venetian Arsenal. Today, it's one of the least visited areas of Venice. But during the height of the Republic, it was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Covering more than 250 hectares, the Arsenal was larger than Vatican City. Inside its walls worked around 16 highly skilled craftsmen, shipbuilders, blacksmiths, carpenters, rope makers, sail makers, weapons specialists. Every trade needed to build an entire navy from scratch. For Venice, ships weren't just transportation, they were survival. Without them, the Republic would lose its trade routes, its wealth, and eventually its independence. The Arsenal wasn't simply a shipyard. It was the world's first industrial production system. Centuries before factories transformed Europe, Venice had already invented something astonishing: a moving production line. Instead of building one ship from beginning to end in a single location, the vessel moved through a carefully organized sequence of specialized stations. At one stop, workers installed the hull. At the next, the masts. Further along, the sails, then the cannons, then the supplies. Every team performed one specific task, again and again and again. Each group became incredibly fast, incredibly efficient. Exactly the same principle Henry Ford would later use for automobiles, more than 400 years later. The most famous demonstration came in 1574. King Henry III of France visited Venice as an honored guest. The Republic wanted to impress him, so they did something almost unbelievable. As the king watched, workers began assembling a war galley from individual components. Station after station, hundreds of craftsmen worked in perfect coordination. Before the royal visit ended, the ship had been fully equipped. Supplied, armed, and launched into the water, ready for battle, in less than 1 hour. Whether every detail of that story has been embellished over time or not, it perfectly illustrates what made Venice different from every other maritime power. No other shipyard in Europe could match that level of organization. The Arsenal didn't just build ships, it built an empire. Venetian fleets controlled trade routes across the Mediterranean for centuries. Silk from Asia, spices from the East, glass from Murano, luxury goods from across Europe. Everything flowed through Venice, and behind every successful voyage stood the Arsenal, quietly producing the machines that made the Republic rich. But today, the greatest engineering achievement in Venice isn't found inside its medieval shipyards. It's hidden beneath the sea itself, completely invisible. A modern system so ambitious, it cost more than 55 billion euros to build. A machine designed to fight an enemy the Venetians have battled for over 1.5 years. The sea, for more than 1.5 years. Venice has fought the same enemy, not invading armies, not rival empires, the sea itself. Twice a day, the tides of the Adriatic push millions of tons of seawater into the Venetian lagoon. Most of the time, the city barely notices. But when several natural forces combine, everything changes. A strong wind blowing from the south, an exceptionally high tide, low atmospheric pressure. Together, they create a phenomenon Venetians know all too well: acqua alta, high water. When acqua alta arrives, the canals overflow. Water spills into streets and squares. Historic buildings begin to flood. Shops close. Residents raise temporary walkways across the city. For centuries, Venetians simply learned to live with it. But during the last 100 years, the floods became more frequent and more destructive. In November 2019, one of the worst floods in modern history struck Venice. Water levels reached almost 1.9 meters above normal. St. Mark's Square disappeared beneath the sea. Salt water entered the basilica itself, damaging priceless Byzantine mosaics that had survived for nearly 1,000 years. Historic buildings flooded, museums closed. Millions of euros in damage were recorded in a matter of hours. It became painfully clear, if nothing changed, Venice would eventually lose its battle against the sea. Italy's answer was one of the largest engineering projects ever attempted, a system known simply as MOS, short for Modulo Sperimentale Elettromeccanico, but most people simply call it the gates beneath the sea. From the surface, you can't see them. Boats sail above them every day without realizing they exist, hidden on the seabed. At the 3 entrances connecting the lagoon to the Adriatic lie 78 enormous steel gates. Most of the time, they're completely invisible, resting flat on the seabed, filled with water, waiting. But when dangerous tides are forecast, everything changes. Compressed air is pumped into each gate. The water inside is forced out. As the gates become lighter, they slowly begin to rise, one after another, until they form a continuous barrier stretching across the lagoon. Within minutes, the sea is locked outside. Venice becomes temporarily separated from the Adriatic. The waves crash against the barriers, but the city remains dry. When the danger has passed, the process reverses. The air is released. Water flows back inside. The gates become heavy again and quietly sink back to the seabed, invisible, as if they had never existed. It's one of the few engineering systems on Earth that disappears completely when it isn't working. The project took almost 40 years to complete. It cost more than 55 billion euros, and when it finally entered service in 2020, it immediately proved its value. Several major flood events that would once have submerged Venice were successfully prevented. For the first time in generations, the city had a real defense against the sea. But even MOS has limits. The system was originally designed to operate only a few times each year. Climate change has changed those assumptions. Sea levels continue to rise. Extreme tides are becoming more frequent. Every activation costs money, creates mechanical wear, and temporarily isolates the lagoon from the sea. That interruption affects water circulation, marine ecosystems, and water quality inside the lagoon itself. In other words, the barrier that protects Venice also changes the fragile environment that allowed the city to exist in the first place. It's an engineering masterpiece, but not a perfect solution. Because the greatest threat facing Venice today isn't a single flood. It's time itself. For centuries, the greatest threat to Venice came from invading armies. Today, it comes from something far more patient: geology. Because Venice isn't just being flooded, it's sinking very slowly, almost invisibly. But every single year, the city moves a little closer to the sea. The first reason is completely natural. Beneath the lagoon lies a thick layer of soft sediment, clay, sand, silt. Over hundreds of years, the enormous weight of palaces, churches, bridges, and stone buildings has slowly compressed those layers. Like pressing down on a sponge, the ground beneath Venice continues to compact under its own weight. On average, the city sinks by about 1 millimeter every year. That may sound insignificant, until you realize it never stops. But nature isn't the only reason. Humans made it worse. During much of the 20th century, industries surrounding the lagoon pumped huge amounts of groundwater from underground aquifers. Removing that water caused the soil to compact even faster. The city began sinking at an alarming rate. Eventually, the extraction was banned. The sinking slowed dramatically, but the damage had already been done, and there was no way to reverse it. Now combine that with another problem. The sea itself is rising. As global temperatures increase, the oceans expand. Glaciers melt. Sea levels continue to climb. In the northern Adriatic, the sea is rising by roughly the same amount that Venice is sinking. Separate, each process seems manageable. Together, they create a dangerous equation. The ground moves down, the water moves up, and every year, the distance between them becomes smaller. Scientists do not agree on every prediction, but they agree on one thing. Without constant protection, flooding will become more frequent, more severe, and increasingly difficult to control. Mose has bought Venice time, but not forever. No barrier can stop the ocean indefinitely. Yet there is another threat, one that most visitors never notice. Venice is not only losing ground, it is losing its people. In the early 1950s, more than 170 residents lived in the historic city. Today, fewer than 50 remain. Many homes have become short-term rentals, holiday apartments, or second homes that stay empty for most of the year. Meanwhile, more than 100 visitors can arrive on a single busy day. In some periods, tourists outnumber permanent residents by more than 2 to 1. Little by little, Venice is becoming something strange. Not quite a city, not quite a museum, something in between. A place visited by millions, but lived in by fewer and fewer people. And yet, despite everything, the city still stands. Beneath every canal, the hidden forest remains. Beneath every palace, the wooden piles continue carrying the weight. The Doge's palace still guards the rooms where the Council of Ten once ruled. The Bridge of Sighs still connects freedom to imprisonment. The arsenal still tells the story of the world's first industrial production line. And somewhere beneath St. Mark's Basilica, ancient relics remain hidden beneath centuries of history. Everything is still there, hidden, in plain sight. Perhaps that is what makes Venice unlike any other city on Earth. It is not just built on water, it is built on thousands of years of engineering, survival, and extraordinary human determination, a city that should never have existed. And yet, against every expectation, still refuses to disappear. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden engineering behind one of the world's most extraordinary cities, you're in the right place. Here on Source Code, we reveal the hidden systems, forgotten history, and incredible engineering behind the places and technologies that shape our world. If you don't want to miss the next journey, subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next episode of Source Code.